Let's get to the news. So this episode is going to be a little special. I needed to respond to a few recent culture war developments that caught my attention. So this is going to be kind of your midweek edition of the Culture Wars podcast. And I will warn you up front that this is not going to be totally about politics per se. You know, maybe 25% politics, 75% culture stuff. So you should decide now if that's your cup of tea or not. So with no further ado, then let's just jump right in. So Matt Walsh, he put out a video the other day, basically responding casually to a viewer question, like from his audience, basically saying, "Hey, what is your opinion on anime?" To which Matt Walsh responded here in this little 30-second clip that it's probably demonic. He says, "I think it's all satanic. I have no argument for it. I have no argument for why it's satanic. It just seems to be that way to me." And then he goes on to say that, generally speaking, adults should not watch cartoons. Okay, point taken. So this guy from Media Matters, Jason Campbell, he basically took this clip, which he dug up from Matt Walsh's history, and used it as an example to smear him as if he's some extremist or some bad guy. So initially I was thinking about letting this kind of die. But then something else happened in the culture war that made me compelled to respond to it, which is Kanye West. He came out and announced that he was going to buy Parler, right? So the company owned by Candace Owens' husband. So, Candace Owens is obviously a friend of Kanye. And then what happened is in response to that Parler acquisition announcement from Kanye, Elon Musk, of all people, he tweeted and then deleted a Dragon Ball Z meme about the sort of acquisition with his pal Kanye West, or Ye. And so if you can see the screen here, it's basically a meme of Gohan and Trunks doing the fusion dance, right? So Gohan is dressed up as Kanye West. He has like the Parler logo on his shirt. And then Trunks is Elon Musk with the Twitter logo on his shirt. So interesting kind of cryptic messages here, almost implying like a merger maybe, or maybe they'll kind of partner on something. Who knows, right? But kind of an interesting kind of hint here. And then Candace Owens, in response to this, she basically like celebrated and kind of had like the clap emoji, because this is good news for her, right? It's her husband's company. She wants to see Kanye succeed. She wants to see her husband succeed. She wants to see the culture succeed. So this tweet is now deleted, though, right? I guess it was too controversial. Maybe Elon didn't want to kind of show his hand in terms of what his future plans are. Maybe some legal stuff comes into play. So I was like pretty shocked, actually, that Elon Musk would even know what anime is, or what Dragon Ball Z is, and especially to be able to power a meme and apply it effectively, right, to communicate a message, right? And even ABL, he's a conservative commentator, Anthony Brian Logan, basically like got the meme. He understood, hey, there's this guy named Goku. So like he actually knows this as well. So I'm amazed by this, right? And the reason is like someone like a Matt Walsh, with all due respect to him, because he's a living legend, to be honest, there's a pretty good chance that he wouldn't know what this meme means, right? So like he would need to research or ask somebody or Google or whatever to figure out what the heck is even being said here, right? With this meme, very good meme, very well applied meme. And look, no shade to Matt Walsh on this. Like I said, he's like a living legend, and it was an off the cuff remark. He doesn't really know anime like that, but it does show kind of a blind spot, I think, this whole saga that conservatives tend to have when it comes to art and culture, which is why we're always playing this catch-up game, right? And Daily Wire, we have to remember, is not just a news and politics organization. They're also media and entertainment. So I would expect that someone from Daily Wire, like a Matt Walsh, should be a man of culture. I'm almost reminded of like the 90s conservatives, right? The 90s conservatives were like, oh, video games are demonic, kids shouldn't play them. Harry Potter is demonic. I mean, think about that anime arc, right? So Harry Potter used to be considered to be demonic. I remember, when conservatives were really, really adamant against it. Now, the creator of Harry Potter is basically our ally, J.K. Rowling, right? Standing up against, the whole trans agenda and what that's doing to women, right? I mean, what a crazy story arc, right? And I think a lot of the culture war stuff changed around the Breitbart time. So I don't know, 10 plus years ago, Andrew Breitbart, he basically said, politics is downstream from culture and conservatives need to play catch up, right? So here we spent so many years bashing all these different cultural elements, the video games, the Harry Potter, Halloween. You can't go trick or treating and have some candy and dress up like a mummy. Ooh, that's demonic. So all of these like very, very kind of reactionary, super uptight positions from the conservatives, it actually made us slow, right, when it came to responding to the culture. And now what's happening? You have Daily Wire putting out TikTok reaction videos. Ben Shapiro putting out, Rings of Power reaction episode kind of reviews, right? You have that one chick, I can't remember her name right now. I think her show is called like The Comment Section, and she's responding, or she's doing like a video about Call of Duty, and she had a pretty good video with Michael Knowles about pumpkin spice lattes, right, going viral. So it's one of those things where, like, for conservatives to win in politics, we have to win in culture, right? And so, we're in this really, really interesting position where we need to be aware of this. If we're going to be culture warriors, so to speak, and engage in like this information warfare, right? So I'll let you guys in on a little secret here before we get too deep into it. So I actually sent an email to Jordan Peterson earlier this year, basically saying, look, it would be great if you can like do some anime review videos. That would be amazing. So many young men, are engaged in this anime. I've had, plumbers come by, electricians come by, or I've worn like an anime t-shirt out in public, going to the grocery store or whatever. And I'm getting people like, oh, wow, you like this, making small talk with me about a show that I like. And it was just really, really interesting kind of way to bond and kind of connect with people. And anime is here to stay, right? It's about time that we do something about it instead of just ignore it and pretend like it doesn't exist, because it's a really good way of connecting with people. And now we're seeing Daily Wire, right, invest $100 million into kids content, which I'm sure will include, right, animation or cartoons. This is oftentimes the first time in which boys and girls can create like a value system, learn about some, metaphors or life lessons for life, use their imagination, etc. Think about how to connect with other kids, right? Like, it's a very powerful thing to understand and to engage in if we're going to actually win this culture war, right? So, and just like real quick, what is culture at the end of the day? I mean, it's going to be shared history, values, stories, languages, right? And one of the things that's true nowadays is that we have a really difficult time engaging with the other side. So it's going to be critical for us to engage in culture so that we can actually have some level of a shared identity and value system. 10, 15 years ago, even though liberals and conservatives would disagree on certain policy issues, we at least had a similar worldview. Nowadays, that is not the case, right? The left basically hates America and wants to see it dismantled, and the right basically loves America and wants to stand up for it no matter what. So there is no shared worldview anymore. How do we change that? We have to influence young people while they're young and impressionable, and hopefully cultivate some good things that will make them into good humans in the future, right? Look, there's some interesting data and stats around this, right? During the pandemic, viewership for anime actually went up like 33%. So think about this for a moment. So this is from Bloomberg. U.S. audience can't get enough of Japanese shows. Demand grows for Japanese language programming, report says. Viewers are more interested in Japanese shows than in Spanish shows. Okay? So think about it. In America, Spanish people or Latin Americans, they're basically like the biggest growing like demographic, Latin people, Hispanic people. And yet viewers are more interested right now in Japanese shows from a small little country way across the world than in Spanish language shows, right? So it says U.S. viewers' interest in Japanese anime and live action content has soared in the past year, according to a report. As foreign shows find more demand from the audiences among the COVID-19 pandemic. Interest in anime programs, and sorry, I'm not paying for the paywall. I'm behind it, so it's a little blurry, but it says, interest in anime programs gauged from audiences' behavior online was up 33% in the first quarter of 2021 from a year ago, according to LA-based Para Analytics. So anime is here to stay among young people in particular, right? They really, really want this stuff. And like one of the things that's interesting is that anime is no longer kind of uncool, right? So you have people like this guy, Israel Adesanya. He's a UFC fighter. Okay, he's 6'4", has a great win record, and his net worth is somewhere between like $4 million and $9 million. And this guy's an anime nerd. He's an anime fan. Look at him. His body fat is low. He's in great shape, great physicality, great success. And look at him. He's wearing Akatsuki outfits. Doing some Dragon Ball Z memery. He's basically a nerd in some ways. So I respect anime because it brings people together fundamentally, right? You have a cool guy like this, someone who would be considered a jock. Like 20 years ago, a man of this stature probably would have been considered to be a jock, right? He's into motorcycles, Harley Davidson, I don't know, basketball, football, whatever. Now it's actually kind of fashionable and trendy, right, to be an anime guy because it's so mainstream. It's kind of in the process of emerging from kind of like small cult following to like very, very, very mainstream. Somewhere in between those two things, right? Tim Pool, right? He's a big anime fan, even though he's in this culture war kind of thing. So I just find it powerful that this guy can have something in common with, let's say, a 300+ pound, 35-year-old virgin who sits in his, basement all day, eating hot Cheetos and watching Death Note. You know what I'm saying? Like, what other cultural things can unite people in this way who are of wildly different worldviews and experiences and kind of lifestyles, right? Only anime. You don't have a lot bringing people together. And this is so important for culture and why anime is useful for culture. So before getting like too deep into it, I just want to like at least acknowledge that to an extent, Matt has a point. So his basic argument is, look, anime is demonic and you probably shouldn't watch it. And he has a point in that, right? So as kind of an anime connoisseur myself, I recognize that, anime deals with occultish, dark, and sometimes demonic subject matter. So you have, anime about slaying demons called Demon Slayer. You have anime about shinigami, which are like gods of death. So that's going to be in like Bleach, for example, or in Death Note, right, where a shinigami drops a death note to the earth and a human picks it up. You have anime about orphan children who basically rebel against demons who want to eat them, right? You have apocalyptic themes, right? You have anime about 7 deadly sins and various sort of demonic kind of forces kind of involved with that. You have anime about reincarnation jutsus, right? In Naruto, and various reanimation powers and stuff like that. It's very heavy and kind of like, touches upon or explicitly like dives into like occultism, right? But to me, like there's a meaningful difference between like, subject and messaging and medium. So just because the topic is subject-wise demonic doesn't mean the message or the medium is actually demonic. Just real quick here, I did want to highlight the fact that, Matt is using this to full effect, right? He's using this to troll the left because they're desperate to find dirt on him, like media matters. So it's pretty powerful kind of a weapon that he's using to basically mock them and ridicule them and troll them. So I'll just show a couple tweets here. He says, the girl from The Exorcist used anime, and then next thing she was crawling around upside down on the ceilings. You guys need to learn your history. 74% of all serial killers have an anime habit. Hitler was into anime, reports suggest, right? So he's basically making fun of them. He's saying these spurious connections are why anime is bad. And if you read between the lines, this is exactly what the left does. So let me give you an example of how the left would do something like ridiculous like this. I'll give you just an example. So the example is going to be like, okay, the other week, climate change activists, they threw soup onto Vincent van Gogh's sunflowers painting as a form of protest. But the left might say, did you know that as they were walking away and being carried away by police officers, one of them threw up the OK symbol, which is a sign of white supremacy, which suggests that they were actually right-wing extremists, right, pretending to be left-wing climate change activists. And when you look at the symbolism of it, sunflowers are actually like the number one produced area for sunflowers in the world is actually Ukraine and Russia. Isn't that ironic? And this is actually a dog whistle to the far right, neo-Nazi, white supremacist base of Trump to recruit Trump supporters to go fight for Putin in Russia. So that's the story. That's the argument. And how do we prove this beyond a shadow of a doubt? Read this report from like 20 years ago, showing Vladimir Putin himself watching an anime and liking it. Boom! Conspiracy theory cooked. I've just taken a story, made some ridiculous, radical, spurious connections between OK signs, sunflower seeds, the sunflower painting, and the whole Russia-Ukraine war and Vladimir Putin. This is clearly an inside job from the extreme right, from the far right. And that's basically what Matt Walsh is doing here. He's using their own humor, their own logic, their own tactics against them, right? To paint something and broad brush something as bad, right? This is exactly what they do. So good job trolling, Matt Walsh. Okay, so back on point, back on message. So the thing about it is, so is a medium itself demonic? I would argue no, right? So Jesus spoke in parables and he told stories, right? There was the adulterous woman who was brought to him. They said, what should we do? Jesus drew in the sand, and they inferred from that what Jesus' message was, and they walked away. They didn't do anything, right? So he was using, in my opinion, a form of art. Instead of just directly telling someone something, he was using an art form to engage them and to provoke their thinking and to send a message in a more compelling fashion. And, fast forward thousands of years through technology, we have picture books and films and, cartoons and all that. So is art demonic? No. It depends on how it's being used. It depends on like a number of factors, how it's being interpreted, what the message is, what the subjects are, all these different things. Art in and of itself is not demonic, is what I'm trying to say here. So we have to think through the particulars in order to make a position. And so, cool. So with that, then, I thought it would be useful to actually talk about, just from more of my personal experience, what I view as kind of like the lessons learned from anime that I think are actually useful to real life, especially today, in ways that are culturally relevant, politically informative, and may actually like help us to engage in culture war and maybe be of a net benefit to society as opposed to a net, loss. Okay. So here are I was thinking about this. Here are 4 lessons learned from anime that I think are helpful. Okay. So first thing first, do not trust the government because it's corrupt and it lies all the time. So this is a very much a central idea to like conservative and libertarian values. So you have like prominent anime like Attack on Titan, where you have the royal government basically lying to the people within the walls. You have here in the middle One Piece about pirates, in which the world government literally is rewriting history and hiding history in order to propagate its secret kind of hidden agenda and deceive people. You have Code Geass with this character Lelouch, who's up against the Holy Britannian Empire, which is like deceiving people and abusing its power and all that stuff. So your fundamental position, if you're aware, go to Naruto, right? Naruto, you had the organization behind the scenes. What was it? Anbu, that's doing all the dirty work, right? That's like, has this kind of covert ops, giving a public image of the government is clean and righteous, but actually they're actually committing just giant atrocities. So fundamentally in anime, you learn to distrust the government, okay? Because it's corrupt and it lies all the time. That's one lesson learned, right? Second lesson learned is you can achieve almost anything through hard work and determination. So this is also a conservative value. It's saying, look, life isn't fair, okay? Life isn't always easy, right? You have to sort of pull yourself up from your bootstraps, brush yourself off, walk with your shoulders back, your head up, and you need to go and kind of seize the day, right? Respect is not given, it is earned, okay? Power is not given, it is earned. You have to go and make something of your life. You can't just sit around on your butt and hope that good things come to you, especially if you're a guy, to be honest. And you learn this from any single shonen anime. So shonen is for young men. So some like really good examples of that. Dragon Ball Z. We have the main character Goku. He's in the hyperbolic time chamber. He's training in like 100 times gravity to get stronger. So that way he can hopefully beat one of the main characters, Frieza. Right? You have Monkey D. Luffy, who's like the main character from One Piece. He's training with Rayleigh, after getting his butt kicked, basically, right? In the show. Naruto, he's training with Jiraiya, his sensei, so that he can become stronger in hopes to become the Hokage one day and to get his friend back, who is like, gone to the dark side, like in Star Wars. So there comes a time in which we all, as human beings, hit a wall, and we have the choice to make. Do we just stupidly run into this wall and not do anything about it? Or do we try to get stronger? Or do we give up? And the choice is, like oftentimes in anime, look, you got to work hard. You got to do the best that you can with the resources available to you to be the best version of yourself that's possible. And anime is what inspires young men to do that and to be men and to work hard. So that's a great thing. Number 3, which is the bonds between humans are the most powerful force in the world, right? So one thing that Matt Walsh often says, or I've heard him say a couple times rather, is that he's not a superhero. This is not about him. This is really about us, right? He's not some saint. He's not some, person with superhuman strength or intelligence necessarily, although he does think highly of himself. It's really about a movement of people who are organized and who are willing to take action and stand up for what they believe in. It's about the parents, right? The people who are showing up to school board meetings and town halls. It's about the volleyball player coming out and speaking out against guys in her locker room when her teammates are afraid and too scared to speak up about it. It's about that transitioning teenager, Chloe Cole, I believe her name is, who's being abused by the system and risking everything, right, to speak up, even if it means partnering with people who she may have some disagreements with. So it's a very humanist philosophy, like that's underpinning anime, right? Which is important in an age like this, where you have video games and dating apps and social media and pornography and virtual reality and all these, like this just mass consumerism that is really destroying the bonds that fundamentally make us human, right? Anime really like reminds us of what it means to be human. The richest man in the world is actually in poverty if he dies alone on his deathbed with no one to care for him. That's actually a poor man, right? And this is a rebuttal for the likes of like a World Economic Forum forcing you to eat bugs and, live in a closet and, telling you what pronouns you have to use for your own child. And this can be used to really evaluate your relationships. Do you have a real friend who's willing to go fight with you, right? You better believe Matt is taking note mentally of who's speaking out and who's not speaking out in this culture war. You better believe that there was some pressure on the politicians in Tennessee and the governor of Tennessee to do something about the Vanderbilt Medical Center, abusing children, right? Right? He's mentally holding people accountable in terms of who are your real friends or allies in this fight and who are the bad actors, right? It's based upon action. Who are you willing to fight with? Who's willing to stand by you? Who are you willing to stand by? So you got some examples, right? This is a famous one, Killua and Gon from Hunter x Hunter. You have Goku and Krillin from DBZ. I say Goku and Krillin because they were day one. Piccolo, he became a friend over time. Vegeta, he became a friend over time. But your day one Goku was Krillin. You can't ever forget that, right? He's underrated. You have Sasuke and Naruto in Boruto. They're basically BFFs, willing to ride or die for each other. Fairy Tail. So in Fairy Tail, friendship is literally a super weapon that can instantly win you any fight. Not kidding. That's literally the reality of it. Yu Yu Hakusho. So you have Yusuke and this character named Kuwabara, who are just amazing, amazing friends and willing to ride or die for each other to accomplish their dreams and their mission as men in this world. So no need to go it alone. You need to be willing to go it alone, but you don't have to go it alone all the time. You You need to be able to keep those bonds alive, because that's what makes life valuable, right? And then the last thing that I've learned from anime, and this is just me speaking about my own experience, people will disagree, is true evil exists and should be confronted. So this is actually a fundamental premise, in my view, of a biblical worldview, which I think is central to having an accurate portrayal of the world itself, right? Evil exists in the form of very wicked and powerful men, and it must be stopped to protect the innocent, point blank, period. That's true now. That was true 10,000 years ago, and that will be true 10,000 years from now if we're still alive by then, and World War III hasn't killed us. So there's a certain, rush, that comes to mind whenever evil is confronted, right? So you have certain examples in anime like Luffy from One Piece, when he punches the celestial dragon. So celestial dragons are basically like slave owners, basically, in One Piece. They're some of the worst human beings on planet Earth. They treat humans like probably worse than cattle even. And it's one of the best scenes in the entire One Piece anime, because you're dealing with unrighteousness, and you are embodying through this one act of a confrontation and punch, the idea of righteous anger really being manifested in full form. It's so satisfying to watch. It's one of the most iconic scenes in One Piece, right? And then similarly, you have this show called Seven Deadly Sins with this character named Escanor. He's fighting against another character called Esterosa, who's a notorious bad guy, and he's like, who decided that? As he hurls a giant fireball full of light to destroy him. So this is an example, right? Evil exists, it must be confronted, and the whole phrasing, in my opinion, of who decided that is like, evil does not get the final say, right? In the narrative of human history, evil exists. It's very, very powerful, but it doesn't last forever. And the ultimate saying should go to the good, and does go to the good. And so this narrative around who decided that, like, you realize that even evil is not in ultimate control over life, which is a refreshing thing and a truth. And other examples in anime, Vinland Saga, you have really evil people in that one. Fist of the North Star, the classic one. Some like stereotypically evil bad people, over the top evil. I already mentioned JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. That's a big one. You have Monster. Monster is a crazy one with an evil psychopath serial killer guy, just unredeemably bad. And then Berserk is another one. So the antagonist in that one is incredibly wicked and deceptive. So those are my 4 lessons learned from anime. Love Matt Walsh. I see where he's coming from. I just have some disagreements. I think that if you're not an anime fan and you wanted to kind of partake in it for the first time, hopefully this video gave you some options on getting started. But I think it's ultimately a net value for society, and I would love to see more conservatives like talk about it and try to apply it and kind of unpack some of the philosophy and some of the political aspects and cultural aspects of it, and kind of what it means for today's society. Thanks for listening to today's rundown. If you liked what you heard, please comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.